Hello and welcome to DMEXCO 2015. My name's Alex Brownsell. I am the editor of M&M Global, and I'm delighted to say I am joined by Dave Reed, the Managing Director EMEA at MediaMath. Hi.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining me. How are you finding the event so far?
It's great. It's obviously one of the most massive events in our industry. This year seems even bigger and more hectic and more filled with interesting stuff than ever. So really happy to be here. It's been a great event.
Yeah. Are you a relative DMEXCO veteron? Have you been here a few times?
I guess this is my third one, so I don't know if that makes me a veteran, but a young, not quite rookie. So
no, absolutely. What sort of trends or themes are you perhaps seeing as you're wandering around the halls this year?
Sure. I think number of trends sort of going on. You can see here and sort of in the industry in general. On the sort of consolidation theme, you're seeing the presence of some of the larger players like Oracle, who increasingly look like a full marketing services. I think it's reflected in the agency booths that are here. Just the full suite of things, programmatic related, data related. And then obviously where we sit sort of in the more independent, slightly smaller scale companies, just the proliferation of companies like ours. So I think, there's sort of this interesting trend between walking around here, you see global players, like MediaMath, like other platforms like us, but as well, you go into some of the other halls and see the proliferation of regional players that are, German-specific or Nordic-specific. So it's interesting ecosystems, lots and lots of players here. I think, looking at that, there's kind of the consolidation theme. You can kind of see it playing out even in the booth sizes and sort of who's where here. It's kind of interesting.
Absolutely. From a client perspective, how are you seeing changes in the way that they are, approaching programmatic, but also approaching data as well?
Yeah. So I think it's really exciting. Taking our sort of clients as a sample set, big movement to more efficiently using first-party data, which is to say CRM, on-site data, purchase data from offline events, data taken from partnerships. So, whether those be FMCGs working with retailers or travel companies working with, related travel companies or financial services companies that may have sponsorship products, whatever it would be, sort of that level of data is super interesting and I think exciting, from a data-driven standpoint. I think from a inventory standpoint, the matching of that with really high quality premium inventory is very interesting. IAB produced a statistic for the UK that something like 50% of all programmatic budgets are bought through some form of private marketplace. I think that's probably pretty representative of Europe as a whole, and I think that's super exciting. So, what we're seeing clients moving towards, which is exciting, is rather than viewing programmatic as a line item on the media plan, they're sort of starting to think in a programmatic first way, which is to say a very consumer-centric way of seeing the world, where it doesn't matter exactly what the channel is, what the activation mode is. You're having a conversation with a client across channels. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and programmatic, it seems to be forging forward into new areas, particularly with channels. There's a lot of hype about programmatic TV. Well, where do you think it's all headed?
Yeah, it's a great point. We got some good press out of being one of the first groups doing programmatic print, for example. We're doing out of home and TV. Those are obviously smaller compared to other channels right now. But I think if you set at a high level, the proposition is, will things get more automated or more manual? Automated usually wins in those contests. So I think there's some inevitability that some form of programmatic, and you can kind of put quotes around what does that mean exactly, kind of to be determined. But I think the movement in general will be towards automation across all channels. It'll also be towards consolidation of data. And, maybe next year we'll be sitting here talking about how, the Internet of Things and how cars are an interesting endpoint for that conversation, or how, other connected devices are. I certainly think all of them are kind of in range.
Yeah. And so what does the next 12 months hold? If we reconvene into Mexico in a year's time, what does the next 12 months hold, both for the industry then and also MediaMath specifically?
Yeah, so it's a big question. Maybe some highlights of just movements that we're seeing happen already. I think from our large holding company partners, there's a rethinking of how programmatic gets figured, and that's happening both from an organizational level across all the big groups, and it's happening from approach and having programmatic be closer to the client and sort of understanding of that, because I think the clients, the end advertisers are starting to understand, hey, this is something interesting, it could be a real business value and drive real meaningful outcomes. I think on the landscape of independent sort of agencies globally, there's a strong, sort of stream there of innovation. I think we're continuing to see that where we have a class of clients that looks fundamentally different in the value that they provide than you would get from a large holding company, and really focusing on API and data and sort of technical innovation. So I think that's super exciting as well. I think from the brands themselves, we're going to increasingly see brand direct to technology. I think that's healthy for everybody. I think it puts us, again, out of the realm of being purely media-like things and more on the realm of being software-like things. And in that world, there's plenty of room. You need experts to help you operate that, and you need partners to be trusted advisors. So I think that's pushing a really healthy and interesting sort of three-way relationship between the agencies, the platforms like MediaMath and brand. And then I think there's this rise of the data-rich publisher as a sort of first-party citizen of the internet world. So, it's easy to see if you're an Amazon or an eBay or a Rakuten, it's clear for them, right? And they run very successful data-driven sort of marketing operations. I think there's a whole set of other publishers or traditional retailers or other folks that are going to start finding these new business models that aren't just monetizing necessarily their data with other people, but doing it in sort of co-op models or doing it in models that, with partners, with people who they consider to be, part of their extended ecosystem. I think that's driving some interesting sort of M&A developments as well that I think will continue. So, last year we had Tesco by dunnhumby by Sociomanic. This year we've had Zalando by Matrigo here in Germany. It's continuing apace. I think it's really interesting when you have the likes of Otto Group or ProSieben starting to really jump into the technological side of the world and start leverage data and media assets. Similar stuff's happening in France, largely around Laplace, but some smaller stuff. And in Spain, Grupo Prisa and other big sort of groups. And then of course in the UK you have Pangea and some other publishing groups. So I think that sort of idea of publishers and retailers and travel companies, and people have a business model that's not core around digital data management are starting to get into that space. I think that's going to drive some really innovative and interesting new models.
Yeah, there's a huge amount to look forward to, a huge amount happening in this industry, and I look forward to reconvening, hopefully before the next year, but certainly speaking again soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Great.